Hi, this is Phil, and I'm here to tell you all about the Capes and Lunatics Patreon. Don't miss out on our comic book creator interviews, including our monthly Chichester chats with comic book legend DG Chichester, superhero movie brackets in our search for the worst comic book movie of all time, and many, many more specials, all completely uncensored. Access starts for $3 a month, full video when you pledge $5 a month. Check out the link in our show notes or go to patreon.com/capesandlunatics. Hope to see you there.
Hearties, and welcome once again to Full Stream Ahead. I be your captain, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me as always is me first mate and skinny rich friend.
It's Mozz.
Welcome, Mozzie. Oh, so glad to have you. In a world of pink goop, covering a planetoid, and sleeping sicknesses that drop humans, but not Wookiees. There's one being who stands above the else. He is the Faithful Wookiee. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Full Stream Ahead. We have just finished the latest appearance of Boba Fett in the Book of Boba Fett, and to round out our season, we thought we would go back to the very first appearance of Boba Fett, though technically not the first appearance, because we'll talk about that in a little bit in the next episode, but the first in-canon story in the Star Wars universe of Boba Fett. That is the story of the Faithful Wookiee. Originally part of the Star Wars Holiday Special, this short follows Chewbacca searching for a cure to a virus that puts his friends to sleep. He encounters an unexpected ally, bounty hunter, Boba Fett. Our director this week is David Akomba. Our writer, of course, was George Lucas. He got that thing. And then our stars, we got Anthony Daniels as C-3PO, Harrison Ford as Han Solo, Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker, James Earl Jones as Darth Vader, and the great Don Franks as Boba Fett himself. Oh, this was a thing they did, Maz.
Holiday specials with little cartoon vignettes.
Yeah, well, here's what I'll say.
Well, I mean, they do it now, too. We have What If, right? Those are like little 20-minute...
Yeah, I mean, and it works in that sense. And this is... So here's some history on this. The artist who does this is the guy who did Yellow Submarine for the Beatles. So at the time, this was actually considered a very avant-garde piece. This was really meant to bring the seriousness of the Star Wars franchise to the holiday special, which Lucas denies he had anything to do with. But, let's not forget that Lucas gave us Jar Jar Binks, too. So Lucas loves the childlike aspects of these things. So it's sort of like when Nicolas Cage now says he is naming himself after the minimalist composer John Cage, rather than Luke Cage, Power Man. We all remember the earlier interviews. We all remember what he originally said. It's like when Alan Moore, you can find the old interviews where he's praising the Watchmen movie before it was made, Well, the original idea, which was a pretty crazy story, too.
I liked the Watchmen movie. I thought it was really good.
Oh, I enjoyed the Watchmen movie too, but there's actually a much worse Watchmen movie that did not get made first. That he did praise, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that there's legends of it. Basically when Alan Moore first started, like all young artists, he was a young artist. And it was like, they're going to make a movie of my silly ideas and I'm going to get paid a little extra cash out of the deal. That sounds fun, And, it was a very different film with ironically a more heroic comedian character. So, who knows what that would have been had it ever been made. But anyway, in this moment, George Lucas, they're making the holiday special. And it is kind of, with or without you, we're going to make this thing. This is a very hot property. We want to do something with it. Right. And, honestly, I think it gets judged too harshly by the kind of borscht comedy of it and the eroticism of the VR that the old Wookiee uses. But quite frankly, I don't know. If I was in a galaxy far, far away and I was an old Wookiee and they have space dancing, ladies, maybe that would be cool for me. It's like, maybe we don't need to see that for what the old Wookiee is doing, but still. But let's get to the actual piece, because this is like the one bit of the holiday special that is allowed to live and breathe and be canonical, which is the Faithful Wookiee. Which, and apparently there's like a relic that they have to pick up, but the relic has a sleeping sickness on it, which is what we find out. This is the big deal. Is like, there's a sleeping sickness that's associated with the relic that the Empire wants. And of course,
but they also just sell the cure in shops around town.
Oh, yeah. No, it's an OTC drug. And that's a good thing. Hey, you know what? I'll give it this much. It's like, it's funny because it's kind of like, speaking of the modern commercialization of medicine in its own way, it's like, hey, get your sleeping sickness. Honestly, it's kind of this thing where you kind of imagine like, if you want to get super deep into like your own headcanon, it's like, well, what the Empire wanted the sleeping sickness for was if they could get this sleeping sickness spread around the galaxy, then everyone is beholden to the cure.
Right, and it's interesting that they had to go all the way into the city center to get it. The people out in the dunes and whatnot would not have had access to it. So,
yeah, although I guess, you have speeder bikes. I mean, I'm sure you could get it if you needed it. Like, if you needed the cure, it was available. Which makes me wonder if this is even kind of this thing where the Empire is just sort of test marketing. Can we keep populations in control with a virus, with some sort of a sleeping sickness. Like I said, there's so many things you can expand out from it.
I just thought the visual also was interesting. As they were getting to the city center, you see all the pollution coming out from the city and draining the natural world around it.
Well, yeah, because that's what cities do. You put a bunch of people anywhere, they're going to cause problems. Because at the end of the day, human or any kind of humanoid isn't going to want to just live in the wild. If we wanted to live in the wild, would still be monkeys, I mean, that was the thing. We had an option. We said, stay in the trees and eat bananas or come out and build society. And we said, well, let's build society instead. And to be fair, the life quality of a human versus the life quality of a monkey, arguably, humans got the edge because, we have candy.
And Xboxes.
Candy and Xboxes, yes. And, cheap entertainments of all sorts,
Right.
You can, monkeys don't have literature. Humans have literature and storytellers and things like that, and yeah, we have to destroy the environment, but at least we have good stories while we're destroying the environment. Right. That's the idea.
It's either going to be us or an asteroid, I mean, might as well be us.
Might as well, I mean, honestly, there's so many things that'll destroy this planet eventually. At least we have a say if we destroy it ourselves,
Right. And that's the way I feel about most things. Hey, look, man, I'm not terribly worried. Something's going to get me,
we're just putting the whole planet on hospice. That's the idea. You know what? We're just going to relax. It's going to go, but we're going to try and make it as comfortable for us as possible.
You know what?
Until the end comes.
If it's getting a bit much for you, let me give you a little bit of this sleeping virus. Take a nap.
Yeah,
And
we'll
you'll be
hang you upside
fine.
down. You'll be alive. And then we'll give you the thing. Everyone comes out of that just fine, you know.
What a strange thing, though. You catch the virus and you fall asleep, but for some reason they have to hang you upside down. Otherwise, what?
Well,
You'll die?
I imagine otherwise you die, yeah. I imagine that
So then it's not
essentially
really a sleeping virus. It's a virus that you can avoid by... I mean...
Well, it's a virus that... And actually, I don't know. Did they even say it was a virus? Or it's a sickness. It's a sleeping sickness. And that the way you keep people alive when they have this is you hang them upside down. And I guess that basically it prevents you from like choking on your own tongue, vomiting into your own mouth, you know.
He said something about the blood rushing to the brain to keep that alive kind of thing.
Yeah. So I think that's a big part of it too. That maybe the heart slows down. So you kind of got to help gravity do the work, you know. Like getting the old blood out, it's relatively easy and you can get it back up to the lungs, but then you just need it to just flow back down because it's, you know, you don't want to be fighting against gravity to keep the brain alive.
Could you hypothetically take a body and just keep turning it this way and this way to simulate the pumping of the blood, let gravity do its work?
I mean,
you would need a certain amount of G-forces to be able
oxygen,
to...
That's the thing. You have to oxygenate it. So, but yes, theoretically, if you sort of put someone kind of... We don't want to be in a centrifuge.
Or not even, but you could just make them go up and down, like in an elevator, up and down with just the right amount of G-forces to make the blood. So essentially speaking, if you think about it this way, if the blood has its own inertia, the blood would stay here and the body would just move about the blood.
Yeah, but the thing is, you have to keep it oxygenated.
Right,
so
right. But I mean, just
make sure the air is coming into the lungs. I mean, that's
let's say, for example, hypothetically, we super oxygenated the blood for, like, let's say for 5 minutes, and we'd have enough oxygen for the body to be able to operate for 5 minutes. And then, if you were to just do this, would it at least accomplish the circulatory portion of what we need?
I mean, it theoretically could, but I think that, arguably, that's what we have heart-lung machines for. So it's like there's a much simpler solution called a heart-lung machine where it's like, no, this will just keep you alive. We can just keep you alive. I mean, probably, arguably, somewhat indefinitely. Like, it's weird. It's like, I think you could like keep a dead body alive on a heart-lung machine, arguably for years if you keep it, nutriated. Before everything else starts to break down. Because eventually, the toxins build up and the liver stops.
Right.
Pancreas goes, Don't mess with that pancreas,
sedentary nature of your existence at that point probably is not good for your organs or your...
Yeah, well, exactly. That's the thing. It's like just everything just starts to break down. But in the short term, we can hang you upside down. It's going to keep you alive, and we can go down to the city center and buy the brand new "Don't Die from Sleeping" medicine.
Have you had your second dose yet?
Yeah. Well, you need it. That's the thing. Like I said, I can build out a headcanon from this that is really awesome about the biowarfare plans for the Empire to control the galaxy, and just...
What year was this?
This was 1970. I want to say 1975. It was just after it came out. No, it might have been 1978 or 78. Yeah. It was just after Star Wars dropped and was the thing. Star Wars was just, a break the bank kind of moment in cinematic history. And so immediately they said, well, let's do something with these characters. This is really valuable IP. I think this is the start of IP, quite frankly. I mean, IP existed. Obviously, there were the serials for the pulps and things got adapted into other genres, but this was like the first time where someone said, oh my goodness, the t-shirts are selling better than the movie.
It's so funny how much Star Wars reminds me of Kiss.
Oh yeah, it's the same. I mean, it's the same aesthetic.
Well, no. I meant as far as the commercialization of it. How many figurines and you could slap that on anything. Slippers, lunchboxes, pencils. Shoes. Anything you can imagine can have that slapped onto it.
And that was Gene and Paul's plan from the start.
Right, and I think that's the only thing that I've seen as prolific as Star Wars is probably Kiss.
Yeah, because
merchandising.
That's what that was the real revelation, and really that was the thing that George Lucas revolutionized. Like, you can say blockbuster all day, but what George Lucas really said was, oh, I want to hold all the toy rights. So that every toy that gets made on this product, I get a nickel on. And so every Boba Fett they make, every Mark Hamill, everything that they make, George Lucas got those nickels on. Because he knew that's the sweetest plum. Because he knew that, you know, what kids really want. They want to go see a movie, yes, but what they really want is to go home and play with the toys and write their own stories.
So they were just like big 2-hour-long commercials.
It was a great toy commercial. It was the first blockbuster toy commercial, and George Lucas saw it all. That's where you can say the man was a genius.
No, it's so funny just thinking about like realigning energies and intentions of different people, right? He found something that people were willing to pay for and then said, I'm going to use this money to actually create like great art. What a great merging of commercialism and art.
Arguably. Although obviously there are a lot of people that, you know, as I always say, everyone hated Star Wars from the first one. You know, it's
are you doing good art if some people aren't angry and hating it, you know?
Well, exactly. You know, that's the thing. It is delightful. It is a great hero's epic journey, and it is mythos. And, you know, and the same is true of modern IP, of the Marvel universe and the DC universe and any pulp universe that you want to throw out there. You know, this is all just the stories that we tell ourselves around the campfire, you know, when we're building out our universes, because that's what we want. We want to have those stories that carry us forward. And this is really the first expansion of the Star Wars universe, because this is the first time we're on a completely different world. Yes, we have our main characters, but even that gets sort of secondary, because the one main character we have, Chewbacca, doesn't really speak.
Right.
You know? And then, so this is really Boba Fett's time to shine, you know? And and it's something I realized that Tamir Morrison is trying to do Dan's voice in this. And I never realized that that's not just, that I always just assumed, Tamir Morrison, that the Boba Fett voice we know is Tamir Morrison's voice, but no, it's actually,
has been.
Yeah, but it's actually Dan Frank's voice. He's doing that voice, which quite frankly moves, Boba Fett up, or Tamir Morrison up in my recognition of him as an actor. That, he said, okay, what's the history? How does this guy talk?
Right.
And so let me try and match that. Let me try and make this guy as close to that as I can, as I put my own special spin on it, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And he did. And that's neat, you know?
It was really interesting because you always sort of like, as someone who didn't grow up with it, right? You always think of Star Wars and you think of everything. You think of the entirety of the whole enterprise across decades, you know. But then to hear them talk after the first movie, man, we had to follow up with something good. It's so interesting to hear them not know that it was going to be as giant of a phenomenon. Well, we had one good movie. We got to make sure we get the next one. It's so interesting to hear that perspective.
Yeah. And this really, as a follow-up, I think The Faithful Wookiee is probably as good as you could hope for from a TV production for it, you know, and this idea of the characters in this small, short subject setting. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed what we got. I actually, you know, one of the things I found really interesting in this is that Luke is flying a Y-wing, and that is interesting to me in the sense that, yes, there are X-Wings and there are Y-Wings, and these are both ships that exist in the larger Star Wars universe. But prior to this, we always saw Luke fly an X-Wing, and it's sort of his ship is an X-Wing. But that he's in this old Y-Wing, it's kind of like, oh, wow, you know, this was before that was an established thing. He's going to fly this Y-Wing, and it's got a droid port too. And it's interesting in its own right when we look at later stuff, because you realize, oh, wow, you know, the Y-Wing actually is very similar to the Old Republic fighters that now the Mandalorian is driving. You know, it's just that they moved that the old Republic had the two pylons in the front, whereas the Y-Wings had them in the back, not dissimilar from the Star Trek design. So it's like, oh wow, you know, there actually are these like weird little similarities, the way that the sci-fi is influencing itself through other things. I'm a little disappointed that Chris Mayhew isn't credited in this for Chewbacca's voice. I mean, I don't know, maybe he did or did not do it. But it is a little weird, you know. Anthony Daniels does get the C-3PO, because Anthony Daniels, C-3PO, he does the most talking in this.
Wait, is this someone making sounds with their mouth? C-3PO sounds, or they're just digital sounds created?
Well, actually, both Kenny Baker did the C-3PO whistles. That was him. And they maybe made them a little more metallic when they ran them through later. But but Chris Mayhew, Chewbacca, that's all Chris Mayhew.
Well,
but Chris Mayhew doesn't get the credit for this, and so that's
no. But like, you probably don't necessarily need, anybody can do that, you know. So they didn't want to not have him come down for 10 minutes worth of dialogue.
Yeah, but I'm sure he would have loved to have gotten paid, you know.
Sure,
that's always the thing.
But they also had to get Harrison Ford down there, so you know.
Yeah, you know, and Harrison Ford has hated Star Wars ever since this.
I mean, the more and more
like
you see him talk as he gets older, I don't think he likes very much. He hates everything. He's just like a old curmudgeon nowadays.
Yeah, well, you know, because he became a movie star and he doesn't like it. You know, he's one of these guys who, you know, clearly sold his soul to the devil for fame, and then he got famous and he doesn't like it. You know, it's like, well, of course not. You sold your soul to the devil for fame. What did you think was going to happen? You know, what did you think was going to be the outcome of you know, wanting to be famous? And it's like, well, there you are, you're famous. And, you know, you just want to make art. Well, then, you know, then make art. No one's stopping you.
Yeah.
You can paint, you can do indie films, you can do whatever the heck you want. But if you want to fly experimental aircraft, that takes money. So go do a blockbuster, you know?
Yeah.
And maybe be happy that you're doing it.
Right,
you know?
right.
And he's going to do another Indiana Jones. I guess he likes Indiana Jones better than Han Solo. I guess that's what he gets, because he gets to be the star of
Indiana.
After
I think there's been 2 really bad Indiana Jones movies recently, right? One was Shia LaBeouf, and then another one after that too?
Well, no, the one after that hasn't been done yet. So
okay, yeah.
We don't know how bad it's going to be yet.
Yeah. I mean, I had high hopes too, because Shia LaBeouf is a pretty good actor. And he seemed he would have been a good actor. The movie and the storyline was just really terrible.
I think the aliens kind of hurt it, you know.
Yeah.
I think once you get into that weird aliens thing there, you know,
we're not talking
do
about
gods and
history
ancient
anymore.
beings, but like don't go to space. Don't go full alien. That's the moral of the story.
Yeah.
It's too close to Star Wars.
Yeah, we need something more grounded.
Yeah. You know, I would love for Indiana Jones to just find, like, you know, oh, it's Excalibur. No, it's just a really well-made sword.
Yeah, yeah.
No, this was like, for the age, this would have been like, you know, the freaking, you know, IBMX missile of swords. But no, it's just a really good, like, someone found titanium and made a sword of titanium in the Middle Ages, which you could do. You just had to hit it hot enough and hit it enough, and you could make a really strong sword. Right. And that's what it was. That's all Excalibur ever was just a really strong sword. But it was really good. One
person knew how to make it. The legends just wrote themselves and exaggerated along the way.
Exactly, you know. But that's not what Indiana Jones necessarily is. Because it's a mystical universe with gods and Hindu gods and Christian gods and every god you want.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Oh, but anyway, but you know, I like the little bit at the end where, you know, the Wookiee never trusted Boba Fett because he didn't smell right.
I love that he's just simply a bad guy. Like, it was back in the day where you didn't need to soften up the bad guy to make people like the bad guy. He could just be a bad guy, and people would just like still gravitate towards the bad guy. They didn't need to make him redeemable in any sense. He was just what he was. I thought that was kind of cool.
You know, and here's what it comes down to. And it goes back to the classic, it goes back to the classic Westerns that Robert Rodriguez and Jean Favreau have pulled upon in these things, which is the idea that, they're bad guys, but they're also men who take their own sense of self seriously.
Of duty.
And they're not, they're not, it's like, they don't care who they're killing, but if you ask them to kill someone, they're going to kill them properly,
Right.
They take their job very seriously, and there's a workmanlike glory in that,
Right. I was playing a game, Cyberpunk, and there's a character in there who talks about his honor, and he works for like an evil corporation, and he goes, "Oh, you don't have any honor, yada yada yada," and he goes, "Listen, you don't understand what I'm talking about. Please do not confuse honor with your petty morality." And I was like, that's such an interesting point to make. Like, honor is different than morality. People always see them parallel, but they don't necessarily have to be viewed that way. I was like, wow, that's a fascinating concept.
No. And and morality is always in its own way, its own self-serving thing. Morality is, I don't want to be hurt, and I want no one else to be hurt. Honor is, I have
your
an
word,
obligation.
whatever the contextual framework is, that's just your word. Your responsibility, your obligation. Do you live up to that?
I respond to my obligation. And now you can have a morality and honor be conjoined where it is dishonorable for me to hurt others because I do not wish to be hurt. Or just, I do not wish to hurt others because I have the ability to hurt others, why should that be a motivation? That's the old,
it's also about like giving up to like the thing, to say that things are bigger than you, right? My choices alone aren't going to fix or whatever these giant problems. I am where I am, and I have somebody I work for, somebody I'm responsible to, or whatever. And those other problems are bigger than me. I'm just a cog in the wheel. Wherever I end up, I have to play my part. But wherever I do, I have to play my part honestly. It's like in that way, you're able to let go of the morality and just concentrate on your immediate surroundings and what you're supposed to be doing.
Exactly. And that is exactly what he does. He says, I am Boba Fett, and I am obliged to do the work I was asked to do. And if people want me to exist in one way or another, that's not my problem. Right. I have to
pay me and I'll do whatever. This is the way.
This is the way, And to be fair, that is even the Mandalorian way, which is that, you don't go back on a job. But when Jin Djarin does go back on the job, the other Mandalorians say, no, we're going to defend you. Even though it's going to kill us and destroy us, we'll still protect you because even though that part of the code you violated, you're still part of us.
Yeah.
And no one crosses us. And we're going to assume that your moral direction to make this choice was for the good, And that's what it comes down to, We need to find the good of our goals. And, I enjoyed the Faithful Wookiee. It's a little light and it's a little silly because it's for what it is. And
it wasn't complicated. There wasn't a terrible amount of nuance. It was pretty straightforward, but it was interesting.
Yeah, and it is just, I love the fact that you have that classic thing that everyone's just broadcasting on the same frequency and there's no such thing as encryption.
And I love that he was writing something much bigger than a Rancor.
Oh yeah, he was, man. He's riding it, man, because he can, he's in his element. That's great. That's the thing. It's like the Boba Fett backstory is glorious, and it's like I really wish. They probably should do a whole animated book of Boba Fett that goes all the way back. And probably someone's going to stitch that together. Where you go back to his first introduction in Clone Wars and put in his animated version and then move to where he becomes an adult in Tamir Morrison and, do that transition. And it's going to be great, because I think that that's the thing that we really missed with Boba Fett. That was like the problem with Book of Boba Fett, is you had all this backstory that you're trying to put into a spot after it happened. Because we end Mandalorian with him taking over Tatooine, but now we need to know why this is all important. And so it would have been better, arguably, had they started Book of Boba Fett from when he comes out of the Sarlacc pit, and then it becomes a much more engaging story. But because we were already waiting for that other story, you couldn't, it was harder to do. Basically, that's the problem. That was the choice they made, and that was the thing. All right, Mozzie. Any other thoughts on tonight's episode of The Faithful Wookiee? First appearance of Boba Fett in the Star Wars canonical universe.
I really dug the animation style. Everything was like super stylized and cool. Love how Harrison Ford's face was like elongated, just like giving you the emotional timbre of the performance a bit more too. I thought it was really, really cool.
Okay, cool. I liked it too. I actually now kind of want to go back and rewatch the Droids cartoon and the Ewoks cartoon. And part of me, it's like, I kind of want to watch those Ewoks movies now. It's like, there's actually a lot of interesting stuff that exists in this universe that was already part of it. But, we sort of dismissed because, it's Ewoks, who cares? Or, it's just the droids running around. And it's like, part of me wonders, are there little secret crystal gems in there that we can find? So, that's elsewhere on my list of things to do. All right, Mozzie. So Mozz, I don't know if you noticed, but I'm wearing a fine new T-shirt today that says "Capes and Lunatics." Yes, with our superheroic logo here in the middle. He's Yellow Circle Man, and that is the Capes and Lunatics logo. And I'm also drinking from my fancy. There it is, Capes. Oh. It only exists for a moment in space-time before it nopes out into the back room. My Capes and Lunatics insulated cooling mug made of real aluminium. Next best thing to Beskar. If people would like this, they can actually go down into our show notes. Go to Linktree, linktr.ee/Capes and Lunatics, and find a link to all of our web pages and merch pages. They can purchase these items for their own use. Likewise, they can find the Patreon page where they can start to give money to the Capes and Lunatics Network, help fund our quixotic adventures into finding the worst superhero film of all time, and get a vote in that. Likewise, if they want to talk to us, with their voices, like human beings, they can call us at 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES. They can call us, leave us a message, and we will play that on the air for any of our shows that you want to reference, because we want to hear from you guys, hear your voices, hear your thoughts, and comment on them and talk back to you in this sort of delayed telephone game. Likewise, you can email us at capesandlunatics@gmail.com. That's capes and lunatics, all spelled out, at gmail.com, where you can give us your written thoughts if you want to compose yourself a little more deeply. And if they want to reach you personally directly, Mozz, how can they do that?
Oh, they can email me at mozzmanzor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And of course, you can always write to me in that old-fashioned email way, the way our moms and pa's once did, at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, at gmail.com. And then follow me on the Twitter when I actually get the energy to tweet things again. I mean, Naomi is back Tuesday nights at 9, and Legends of Tomorrow are back Wednesday nights at 8, and these are both shows I love, and I would love to tweet. I just got to get the energy to do so. But you can follow me at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle. For what?
For quality.
Thank you, Mozz. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for joining us here as we sail the briny seas of the internet to find the best streaming content for you. Please come again next week as we once again sail full stream ahead. Arrgh.